Hello and welcome to the grand final edition of How Good is Rugby League. My name is Michael Corbin, and joining me on the road to the grand final,
Michael.
Sunday, 7 p.m. I think Emmanuel Pangos is here.
I am Mike. How are you?
Look,
We'll
my team
talk
lost.
about it.
My team lost. We'll talk about it.
It's all right.
Unfortunately, that's not the actual game itself. The
Yeah.
grand final is not the lead story
Yeah. So
in the NRL at the moment.
someone's had a bit of a tantrum that they're not in the grand final after they were last year and decided, you know what, this is the week we can steal the headlines. And the Broncos last week, conveniently timed, so it was just after NRL 360 was broadcast. Brisbane sacked or parted ways with, or they were informed that their coach was standing down, whichever way you want to look at it.
No, he was sacked.
Yeah,
let's not mince words. He was sacked, and they can spin it all they want, but they've decided that he's not the coach. Kevin Walters is no longer the coach for the future.
Yeah, so the messaging in the press conference from Kevin Walters was that the Broncos and the Walters family came to an agreement. I don't know what that means. There's only one person that's the coach of the club. But Kevy is no longer the coach. The reaction was, as you would expect. We've been talking about Kevin Walters' position on this podcast for a very long time. I'm almost going to claim it as an exclusive. I said to you very, very early on in the year that he was under a lot of pressure and he was underperforming. It has probably been, I think, quite a captivating fallout. The swiftness of it, the reaction from the Broncos old boys that we've discussed on this podcast since we started podcasting back to the Anthony Seibold days at the club. Michael Maguire, who many people who listen to this would know I have a very high regard for, has been appointed as the coach of the Broncos for the next 3 years. He'll commence on the 1st of November. And in somewhat, in a little bit of a reunion, incredible reunion, he will be reunited with Adam Reynolds, who, of course, was the halfback when Madge won his premiership at Souths. So a fair bit going on at the Broncos, Mike.
Yes, there is. Look, this whole process has been odd. The way that the exit interviews were done, and that was my first thought when I heard Walters has been sacked, that the exit interviews were terrible.
Yeah.
Players have come out and said that he's not a great coach, or they've had problems with his coaching or something like that, and that's what's forced this decision. We've found out that the interviews were conducted anonymously via like an app or something like that, and all the feedback was given anonymously, and then Kevy's reaction to the feedback is what inevitably was his undoing. Didn't take the feedback too well. I think Kevy basically wrote his death sentence the moment he said that 2 games out, we're going to play finals football, and then his team conceded almost 40 points in back-to-back weeks.
Yeah.
That was it for me. And look, I was always under the assumption that they'd probably, just because he did make the grand final, they would give him till halfway through next year. But all credit to the Broncos. This is a really tough decision. I think they've made the right one. I think Madge is a coach who, yes, he didn't work at the Tigers, but no one's worked at the Tigers. He has done wonders for New Zealand Rugby League. He did wonders for the Blues this year. Yes, he might have a limited time as a head coach. We saw his tenure at South's end after a certain period of time.
Yeah.
But is that enough time to get this insanely talented Broncos team over the hump? It might be. They need that culture change that Madge can bring, that intensity, that defensive culture that they were so insane, like they were missing all this year. Just the professionalism from that team. There was points, even at the back end of the year, when they were scoring. I remember Pat Carrigan scored a try in that game that they lost 40-6 against the Titans, I believe it was. And like every time you see a player score, the whole team runs.
Yeah.
No one ran to him.
Yeah.
And this was like at 6-6 as well. It's just like this team had issues and a change was needed. And, credit to them for not waiting too long.
Yeah. I 100% agree. And I think the fact that Brisbane made that decision is probably one of the best decisions that the Broncos board has made in the last 10 years. And the reason I think this is the case, Mike, is because I've just seen how a football club, like with my own experience with Souths, I've just seen what happens when you let the issue fester and pretend there's nothing wrong, okay? It's a line in the sand. It's been 3 of 4 seasons. They've missed the 8. You can say whatever reasons you want. That the squad is clearly there. I just think it was the best way to do it. Get a proper preseason with a different coach, because if you let it fester and then pull the pin in round 6, 8, or 10 next year or whenever it is, you burn 2 seasons, and then you end up having players that are just sidetracked. This puts everyone on notice. Every single player in the club is now on notice that we've listened to you, we've replaced the coach, we've listened to your feedback, and now you all need to step up and reciprocate. We're getting you a premiership winning coach that focuses on defense. He's got a good attitude. He'll focus on your fitness. He'll pull you into line, and you need to comply, because really the players asked for a change, and now it's time they're responsible for it. So I applaud the Broncos. I think it's one of the strongest decisions we've probably seen out of that club for a really long time, for a club that has really made some really poor decisions in the last decade.
Yeah, and to not go with an old boy and go for a New South Welshman of all people, like that was a big controversy. If you ever watched Gordon Tallis on TV, he was against this decision from the start. He was against a New South Welshman being the Broncos coach for some unknown reason, even though he has no affiliation with the club anymore other than playing for them.
Yeah.
But that was the sentiment from a lot of the old boys. The big question now is who coaches New South Wales. I don't have the answer. The name that everyone keeps saying is Laurie.
Yeah.
And I didn't love that tenure as coach. I think he, 6 years, 1 win?
Yeah.
We're going back. Is that the only option?
5 years. I think 5 years.
5 years, 1 win.
I don't think it's going to be entertained, but I would love to see Ivan have a crack, to be honest.
No, they won't do it.
They won't do it, but I don't know that Back to the Future with Laurie Daly, given his track record, is good enough.
Now, other names, obviously, Jeff Tuvey's a name.
Yeah, well,
who has been I think we need a player who's coached in the NRL. I think that's a coach who is, a club coach. Other names that have been thrown up at the Johns is obviously Matty's obviously the dream candidate who we've always wanted, but we'll never do it. So yeah, that's a big question. I don't have the answers. It's still a fresh topic, and I'm sure it'll be discussed in the off season.
Yep. Okay, enough about the Broncos.
Yep.
Okay, so we're down to 2.
Yeah.
Mike, one of the 2 that we lost over the weekend was, of course, your Chookies. The other one was Cronulla. So 3rd and 4th bow out. 1 and 2 live to see another week. And the winner of this week will, of course, win the premiership. Let's dissect the losers first. The Roosters played on Friday night. They had the dream start in terms of being 13 on 12, but they lost Lindsay Collins early. They had an unlucky call from the bunker, but I would say that Melbourne were just playing a different level of football.
Yeah, they lasted that first 10 minutes. They did concede 1 try.
Yeah.
But then when Nelson came back on after the sin bin, it was like a different game. And I'm actually a bit disappointed in our performance. I thought that we should have put in more of an effort.
Yeah.
I thought that there was that point where it was 24-18. We're slowly coming back, and then we just lost it completely. And that was in the second half. It was 22-0. 22-6 in the first half. That wasn't good enough. But that's all. Melbourne were just fantastic. I thought that in terms of our performance, I thought the halves struggled.
Yeah.
I thought Teddy had probably one of his worst games of the season. A quiet game, only had like 130 meters. I thought Crichton had a bad game.
He was so exposed. Like, it was just they kept running at that hole. It was incredible.
I'm going to talk about that when we get to Melbourne. Victor Radley, what he did these last two games, can't go unstated. Playing with a broken shoulder, is just insane. One player I thought was awesome for us, and has been awesome for us since coming back from that ban in Origin, is Suoli. Has been fantastic and really embraced that centre position. We're really going to miss him next year. Dom Young, I thought, was quiet. Daniel Tupou was solid as always. Connor Watson, I think, was a bit erratic, just trying to do a bit too much. And our forward pack should have dominated theirs, and it didn't. And I know losing Lindsay hurt, because he's like your safeguard in the middle, and a lot of their tries were scored in the middle. But that's no excuse for how we played, and they bent us backwards on a lot of plays, and that's just not how this team needs to play now going forward. I think that the moment Walker and Smith went down for the season, that was a line through us, right?
Yeah.
Would they have been the difference? I can't. Who knows, right? 30 points is a lot of difference, though. And I think that we need to seriously consider what needs to be done to be able to beat these top two sides. We're better than 13 teams in the competition. Those other two, 14 teams in the competition. Those other two, we cannot touch. And we're so far behind them, and it's not funny.
Yeah. But I think that you talk about those other 14 teams and you're so much better than them. But I think how you actually beat those other teams is going to play a role in how you beat Penrith and Melbourne. Because, and I've said this to you throughout the year, that the Roosters, the Trent Robinson premierships have always been built on defence, right? And this year, you guys looked incredible in attack. Holbrook had done so much, but had not seen from this Roosters team the same commitment to defence that particularly the 2013 team, but the 13, 18 and 19 teams had. And I think if there's any review to come out of how do we go from here and how do we beat Penrith and Melbourne, it can't be in who is the additional player that can add another try or two. It has to be who is the additional enforcer that can bring in a defensive mindset. And this is a problem that I don't think that just the Roosters have. This is a problem that most of the competition has.
Yeah, defense
has fallen off the wayside. And even Melbourne and Penrith at different stages throughout the year have conceded more points than they usually do. And the challenge for the Roosters is there's a lot of the Bulldogs that have been a team that has defended so well and have been unable to put on points, which I think the points will come. The Roosters are the opposite. They can score so many points, but they just can't tighten their defence up against those clubs where you can't rely on your natural ability and your talent to just outscore another team and take control of the game that way.
Yeah, look, I agree. Defence wasn't as good as it has been in those premiership years. The thing for me that I think has been lacking since Cronk's retirement has been the kicking game.
Yeah.
And in particular the long kicking game.
Yeah.
Because you see so often teams like Melbourne, Penrith, Parramatta, Manly, right? Broncos. When you're struggling to fight out of your own end, a kick that can just pin or completely change the game. The Roosters have not had that.
Yeah.
And I don't know if that changes with Sandon and Sam Walker coming back next year. Right? I like that. That is something that I think we need to address more than anything is the long kicking game. I don't know if Sam Walker will ever get there with his frame.
Yeah. Right? Does Sandon have a good long kicking game?
Not good enough.
Yeah.
Right? And it's something that can be worked on.
Yeah.
Right? And off season may help it. But
this is you just spoke about your forwards, right? And how you should have been dominating. That is the reason they could never get over that advantage line.
Yeah.
Isn't it? Because they did all the work. I mean, you've got Origin class forwards
Yeah, so often.
and
So often.
international class forwards. And really, the thing that's probably letting you down at the end of it is a Kiri kick that doesn't go as deep as you want.
Yeah.
Uh,
Instead of fielding a kick on the 3 meter line, they're fielding it on
or
the
30.
no, on like the 17 or 18. It
Yeah.
just gives them an extra 5-10 meters.
Yeah.
And that's the difference that we're missing, and like just not getting the kicks high enough. No one in our team has been able to put up those ginormous bombs that we see from Nathan or Cherry Evans or Matt Burton, right?
Yeah.
Like I think that's the thing that we're really missing. Obviously, next year as well, heading into next year, no Hargraves, no Kiri, no Manu, no Satili Supanua, no Joseph Suoli. They're big holes to fill. All of them played this year. That is Jared. I think Jared's going to be the biggest loss of all, because he's what he does leadership-wise, intensity-wise, tone-wise for our forward pack. The numbers speak for themselves when he's on the field and when he's off the field. Like when he's playing and when he's not playing, the win percentage is a stark difference, and he's going to be the player I think we miss the most. It's going to be a struggle for us to make the 8 next year.
Well, that was my next question to you, Mike. Where do you see yourself ending up?
I think that the coaching that we have, right, and the players that we still have, I think we'll be fighting for the 8. I don't know if we definitely won't be a top 4 team, I don't think, next year. I think we're going to be around that 7, 8, 6, 7, 8 spot.
Yeah.
Maybe even lower. I'm trying to be optimistic here.
Yeah.
Right? Obviously, no Brandon Smith, no Sam Walker the first 3 months of the season as well. That hurts. It's 2 spine players, right? So yeah, I think
who's
next
going to play centres for you guys? Billy Smith.
I think one of Daniel Tupou, or one of Dom Young and Mark Namonganindawase need to play centre.
Yeah,
I think I'd lean more Mark. There's also Robert Toya in reserve grade, who's fantastic, who's been injured, has shown great signs. But again, you're relying on Billy Smith and Robert Toya, 2 players who are perennially injured, to play a full season. You can't expect that.
Yeah.
Right? That's the best case scenario. So, yeah, I'm worrying signs for next year. Probably we had that down year in 2016. 2016 was a bit of a horror year because Mitchell Pearce, Jared, I think, was coming back from an injury. Boyd tore his pec.
Yeah.
So, like, there was a lot of holes in that team, and we just started terribly.
But a down year for you guys, typically, I mean, that year aside, down year for you guys is you finish 7th.
Yeah.
Which is probably what's going to happen.
But is that good? Is that good enough?
Well, it is for the roster you're going to have next year.
I agree. I agree. But how long can Nick's getting old? Uncle Nick's getting old. He's 83. He wants to win one more. I reckon he wants to win one more before he steps away.
Well, this was the year, Mike, because every October 6 grand final in the NRL era has been won by the Roosters.
Really? I didn't know that. This was the year, but then that all obviously came to a halt after those 2 injuries.
Yeah.
Okay, that's enough of the Roosters.
Lucky for you, it's actually October 7 this weekend, so next year it is. Okay, so one thing that we do need to talk about, because it's affected the Roosters on different ends 2 weeks in a row. So, what is the future of the kickoff in the NRL?
So today I was actually thinking about this on the way into work. How are they going to do this? The NFL has just brought in these new rules, right, where the kicker, who is a specialised position in the NFL, stands back on the 30-metre line where they kick it from. And basically there's a landing zone between the 20-metre line and the 10-metre and the in-goal, and the defenders line up on the 30-metre line.
Yeah.
And you can't start running until the player touches the ball. Right? Is that what we're going to see? Are we going to abolish the kickoff what's all together, and it's going to be a 10-metre tap? Is it going to be like you have to kick the ball from, as the receiving team, you have to kick the ball from under your in-goal out, and wherever it goes, that's where you start? I don't know the answer. But something will change, because for 2 games in a row and 2 weeks in a row in the finals, a player has been knocked out. Both sides of the ball. We had an attack player and a defensive player knocked out off the kickoff. So it's both sides. Something will change. And if it happens again this week, they might change it like Who knows?
Yeah. Well, that's
Right?
it. That like the aim is to minimize the impact. So the only thing that I was really thinking are the options that you said. So the tap, I think, is one of them. So basically, the try scoring team starts with the ball at their own end of the field, and a set of six starts there. Or you almost have the dropout now. It's kind of like if you kick it out, or if there's if it goes out and whatever, you don't make it, that's fine. So, and I do think it's going to end up being you have to kick it off, but it has to land between the 10 or the 40 and the 30. So it goes the 10 meters, has to go in that 10-meter zone, and that way you're minimizing the impact in the run-up. Yeah. And that way the teams are pressured to put the ball high, which means that the team that kicks off, which will be the defending team, has time to get to where the ball is going to be, which then minimizes the impact because they're standing right next to the player when they catch the ball. It's the only thing I can think of.
But then that gives more field position to a team that's just scored a try.
Well, that's it.
Right? There's all this. This is going to be the hard thing. Obviously, the biggest argument against it is in the grand final, in State of Origin. What's the first thing you want to see when that kickoff goes? You want to see that first hit up.
Yeah.
Right? That gets taken away.
Well, that Sam Burgess moment is never again.
Yeah.
Isn't it?
Yeah, exactly. Okay. Another team that was eliminated last week.
The Sharks. Yeah. So, very interesting off-season that happened for Cronulla. I think they did. I think this year was good for them. Yeah. Okay, they made the top four. They won a final. They got to the grand final qualifier. They're up against the best team in 50 years, which we'll talk about. For a spot in the grand final, I think it's an all right year for them. Okay, like I think it's a better year than last year.
Oh, obviously,
and it's a better year than the year before. I do think there's going to have to be a conversation about their spine. I don't know what the solution is, other than I think possibly to have Nico at fullback, move Trindle to 7, and go from there.
I agree. And look, even in the game that they played on the weekend, Trindle was a 7. Trindle was a dog and a half. Yeah. And I think that's a move that Craig Fitzgibbon has realised in time, which is smart. Whether that means you play Nico at 6, whether that means you play him at fullback, I think the person with the most pressure on them to keep their spot will be William Kennedy.
Yeah.
And I've said that on here. I think that a move, maybe it's Atkinson, maybe it's Cade Dykes, maybe it's Nico. I think there's going to be a competition for that fullback spot. This team, though, has been pretty good all year. They've beaten a lot of top 8 teams, which is always the thing.
Yeah.
They won a finals game, which is always the thing, and then they came up against the best team in 50 years. And was it their best game? No. Right? But they were in it. They were competitive. So I think it's a good sign for them going forward. They get Adam Fanor-Blake next year, which I think will be massive for them.
Yeah.
Just a giant forward leader, like an impact forward, which they haven't had. It's not a star-studded lineup, right? No. They've got some of the fewest resources. No Origin stars. The fewest resources. They've got no one in the Kangaroo squad at the end of the year either, right? And this team just keeps on being a top 4 to 5 team.
Yeah.
So they've done really well. They've got, obviously, the Newtown Jets won on the weekend, which is their feeder club.
Yeah. They beat Melbourne's feeder club. The women are playing in the NRLW final against the Roosters. Yeah.
Right. This team, with their minimal resources, their 13,000 seat stadium, they are competing every year, and that is a good sign.
Yeah. Like, he's done a great job. He's done an excellent job there. And I think it's been a really good year for them. So, well done to them. The challenge for them is not criticism, but the challenge for them is going to be around their spine, and how they work on that over the summer, and what the salary cap implications of that are. If you're paying halfback money for a fullback,
the fullback and halfback money are the same. It's what Trindle gets on the open market.
Well,
That's going to be the big question because he's available November 1, but it
Yeah.
won't be till the year after.
Yeah. And Cronulla were also grand finalists in the Jersey Flag as well.
There you go.
Lost to the Bulldogs by 2 points. So if there's a sign of who the upcoming teams are, it's those ones.
Jersey Flag head coach for the Bulldogs,
Josh
Jackson.
Yeah.
Who Gus has tipped to be an NRL head coach at some point.
Mm-hmm. Which club?
It won't be the Dogs because they've got Sorrello, but who knows?
Yep.
South Sydney.
Maybe. Right.
Yeah. In terms of Cronulla heading next year, I think that, they're probably going to be around the same position. They might even jump up to third. Penrith are going to lose some players. I think Melbourne actually aren't losing too many players next year. Maybe they can be as good. Penrith are losing Luai.
Yeah.
I think that this Sharks team will take a lot out of this final series and this season. And if I was Nico, I would make sure that I'm nowhere near the Origin picture. Don't let that be a headache for you this year.
Yeah, well, if he plays fullback, there's no risk.
Exactly. I'd do that, and then I think they might even improve. They might go to third, second.
Yeah.
Which we've seen them do. So good signs for the Sharks. One of the best backlines in the competition.
Yeah.
Kyle Lero will probably win Rookie of the Year or Fake Rookie of the Year behind Galvin.
The Lachlan Galvin Award.
Yeah, the Lachlan Galvin Award.
Yeah.
Katoa, Mulatalo, all awesome. Cam McInnes is the biggest workhorse in the NRL. Blake Brayley is the Iron Man of the NRL, never misses a minute or a game. So good signs, really good signs.
Yeah. All right. Team 2. Let's talk about Team 2, the Panthers.
Yeah.
All right. So I'll go through team lists in a sec, but this week they're playing in their 5th consecutive grand final. Okay, we're now talking. We've gone through the 90s, gone through the 80s. You have to go back as far as 67 to 71 to find a team that's made 5 consecutive grand finals. And if you look for 4 consecutive premierships, which is what they're going for, we're talking about the 60s. Like, we're in true dynasty area here. Absolutely incredible.
Yeah, only 7 teams have ever done it, I believe, and a lot of them were. Obviously, the last one was 67 to 71 South, and a lot of it was pre-war.
Yeah, exactly. And very unusual, but incredibly, Mike, a couple of stats coming out of this that I've seen on Twitter through the week. So only 8 players remain from their 2020 team. So Cleary, Fisher Harris, Yo, Luai, Leota, To'o, Martin, and Edwards. Mitch Kenny was on the extended. And then, of course, they're losing Fisher Harris and Luai at the end of the year.
Yeah.
Another amazing fact to come out of the weekend. So only 5 players in history had played 5+ preliminary finals before last weekend and never lost one. Those were Ron Coutling, Lazarus, Mal Meninga, Steve Menzies, and Craig Fitzgibbon. And that more than doubled, and it went up to 12 after last weekend. So just absolutely incredible stuff. It is just unbelievable. The other one I've been seeing this week is if Nathan Cleary scores 11 points in the game this weekend, he will be the highest scoring player for grand finals. Jumping ahead of Cam Smith, who's on 44 in the lead, and Eric Sims, who's on 41. So incredible stuff. And to think that Cam Smith got to that record only 4 years ago, when Nathan Cleary was playing his first grand final, and Cam Smith was at the end of a 430-game career.
Yeah, at the age of 37.
For a team of its own dynasty. So this is some of the numbers we're talking with Penrith. I don't think they are playing amazingly well. I think that even the Roosters in the start of the second half of that week 1 final pointed out some holes, but for so long as Nathan Cleary is in that team and that core is there of those 8 that we named, they're the core and everyone else is the fill-in. I think they're a real genuine chance of making it 4 in a row. Their weaknesses are in the centres. Everyone's going to say target Cleary. Targeting Cleary is the obvious choice. Like they tried to target Cronk in 2019, but the centres, I think, for Penrith are their weak areas, and we just saw how They completely exposed Angus Crichton and Luke Keary on the weekend in that game against the Roosters. And I'm intrigued to see who they target this week as the weak link in that team.
Yeah, just an incredible team. I agree with you. They didn't play well against the Sharks.
No.
They did enough to win.
Yeah.
And when they needed some points, they're like, all right, let's actually play properly.
Yeah.
Which is scary because they seem like they are a team that could turn it on. I thought that first, if they come out and play how they played against the Roosters in that first half, no one's competing with them.
Yeah.
Right? That was the perfect performance. I don't think anyone can touch them if they do that. This team is just it's so composed, and even against the Sharks, they didn't play well. That was an attack. Their goal line defense is insane. And just when you think that you've got a break, 8 Panthers players pop up behind the ball.
Yeah,
it's like no matter where you are, they always have numbers. They're fitter, stronger, faster than you. I think Isaiah Yeo has just been. We've had discussions about him at Origin level, but at club level, he is the most consistent player over the last 7-8 years.
Yeah.
Apparently, he has a tackle efficiency of 98%. He's made over 900 tackles this year. He's missed 16 all year. He's missed less than 1 tackle a game.
He's awesome.
Yeah,
he's absolutely awesome.
And
Not even 30 yet. 30 next month, and I believe this game will make him the most capped Panther.
Yeah, just an insane career. Nathan, as long as he's in this game and he is healthy, and that's a big question. Is his shoulder okay? We saw him grimace. I think he'll be fine. He'll get through this game. If he's there, this team is so dangerous, and we'll get to our predictions soon. But I think Panthers get this because when it comes to September football and October football, or whatever you want to call it, finals football, there is no one more in this league that I trust than Nathan Cleary to pull out a performance. We saw it last year in the grand final.
Yeah. Okay, let me do the team lists, and then we'll talk about Melbourne, and then we'll go through
predictions.
So Nelson lost his fight last night. He broke the record that he himself set for the fastest sin bin ever in a Storm Roosters preliminary final. He's gone from 20 seconds in 2019 to 18 seconds in 2024. Incredible areas. So Kamakamika gets the call up in the starting side, and Lazarus Valepu has been added to the bench. Kamakamika has started in 14 of his 21 appearances this season, the most recent being in round 23 against Souths. The 30-year-old has played 113 games for the Storm, and this will be his first grand final, while 25-year-old Valepu is just 7 games into his NRL career, having debuted in round 20 against the Roosters. Suafa Longo and Maroa and Joe Chan are among the reserves after featuring for North Sydney in last weekend's New South Wales Cup Grand Final, and Grant Anderson is the 18th man. Penrith, Scott Sorensen is among the reserves again as he races the clock to return from the hamstring injury that has ruled him out of both the Roosters game and the Sharks game. Should he be a late call-up, Matty Eisenhuth on the bench will make way, and Brad Schneider will likely retain his spot as cover for Cleary. Talau, Laurie and Summerton are also in the extended squad, with Casey McLean the 18th man.
Valepu breaks Blake Taft's record as the player with the fewest caps heading into a grand final. You've mentioned he's played 6 games before this. Big, young, huge prop. Good player. I like him. Just another Melbourne, find that they just seem to turn into great players. Okay, Melbourne.
Yeah.
I want to bring up their spine.
Humming.
That is their advantage over Penrith, is their spine is better than Penrith's. Right? And a lot of it is to do with what Harry Grant can do out of 9 and the choices that he has on going either side. You've got Pappenhausen and either Munster or Hughes. And it's so dangerous. And he makes that decision. Harry Grant makes that correct decision almost every time. That's how good he has been. What Melbourne did brilliantly against the Roosters, Angus Crichton has been one of the best defensive centres all year, defensive edges all year, right? What Roosters do is the gap between Crichton and Keary is normally quite small, so Keary's protected, right? The shape that Melbourne ran wasn't to isolate Keary with the edge back rower, which is what 99% of shape is in the NRL. It was to isolate Angus Crichton with Pappenhausen's speed.
Yeah.
That's what destroyed us.
Yeah.
And it was brilliant. It was brilliant from Craig Bellamy. It was brilliant coaching. And I think we're going to see more teams do this. We'll see Penrith do this. We'll see Storm do this weekend with Pappy going and trying to isolate Liam Martin or Luke Garner. That's what they're going to try. And yeah, that when this spine is healthy, that's Melbourne's. It's so fast and so creative, and you never know what you're going to get at Cam Munster. Jerome Hughes has been the best player all year, and yeah, they've got two great edge back rowers in Eli Katoa, who was awesome on the weekend. He outplayed Angus Crichton. Yeah. He'll win the other second row of the year award. Yeah. Sean Bloor, who couldn't get a spot at the Tigers, has made that edge back row his spot. Jack Halwaff at centre has been just impeccable since moving to there. He's a back rower, and he doesn't look out of place at centre. Yeah. And yeah, their forward pack has been strong, and it just gets it's so disciplined and knows, they're going to have a really tough challenge against the two best props in the game in Leota and Fisher Harris. Yeah. That's going to be the challenge, is that middle part of the field.
I have a question.
Yeah.
Would you say that of the three grand finals that Penrith have previously won,
yeah,
would you say that this is their most formidable opponent?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Because in those other 3 years, you got to remember, Penrith also finished first.
No. Not 21.
21 they didn't?
No.
Yeah. Okay. Who finished first in 21?
Melbourne.
Are you sure?
Yeah. South's okay. Penrith was 2-3 in week 1.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. Well, the reason I thought that was because they wore black jerseys. They're wearing pink jerseys for the first time in the grand final. Because they're the lower seed.
Yeah, yeah. But those other times they didn't always finish first.
Yes. Yeah. Okay. But even in that grand final against Souths, they were the highest.
They were the highest seed. Yeah.
Right. That Souths team was without Latrell.
Yeah.
This Melbourne team is purely healthy.
Yeah.
It is coached by arguably the greatest coach of all time in Craig Bellamy.
Well, this is where I want to get to this, Mike. So we're, Craig Bellamy, regardless of strip premierships and whatever, he is going to appear in his 10th grand final as a coach.
In 22 years.
In 22 years. He's even less. His first grand final appearance was in 2006, right? Ivan Cleary is set for his 6th grand final appearance, his 5th straight. Both coaches on the official records are looking for their 4th premierships.
No, Bennett's gone for... no, Bellamy's 5th.
12, 17, 20. Because 08 stripped. 08 stripped. 07 stripped and 09 stripped.
Okay.
Yeah. Which extraordinary feats, right? Is Ivan Cleary underestimated? Like, I know it's an incredible thing, but Craig Bellamy has done brilliantly well, and we talk about him so much and how brilliant he is. But is Ivan Cleary really underestimated for what he's actually been able to achieve? Is it purely the luck of that system that's got him there? It can't be.
No, it's not. He's done a brilliant job, because the amount of players that they have lost and the players who have had to bring up and put into that system, and it works. And that is all credit to him. They've also lost the assistant coaches who help train those players to come through.
Yeah.
Right? Ivan is there.
Yeah.
For me at the moment, it's Craig and it's Ivan.
Yeah. Yeah. And they just both seem so different in the way they coach. Everything about them. Bellamy, we've seen how meticulous he is. If anyone's got free time this weekend, go and watch the last 8 minutes of the 2020 grand final when Melbourne were down to 11 men, but were ahead on the scoreboard, and Bellamy is hands on the Proven Summons trophy and is screaming for his life. Go and watch those 8 minutes and you'll see how much this guy cares and how meticulous he is. And then the siren goes and he just sits there absolutely just about to go ballistic. And you see just how meticulous he is. And then you almost see Ivan as the opposite and almost Wayne Bennett areas in terms of hardly ever looks phased, hardly ever looks rattled. And the closest you saw to it was probably last weekend when he went off for the bunker.
Yeah. The refs for this game, by the way, Ashley Klein on the whistle and Grant Atkins in the booth. Thank God Chris Butler is nowhere near this game because he does not deserve to be a top 4 ref. I completely agree with Ivan's sentiments towards him. The reffing issue. Yeah.
Well, I mean, Atkins was the ref that missed the knock on in the Roosters game.
Well, the bunker missed it as well.
Yeah, I know, but anyway.
Yeah.
Anyway, that aside, I think it's an incredible matchup. There's something quite poetic about this because Penrith got to that grand final in 2020 and Melbourne won it, and it was Cam Smith's last game, and it was kind of the end of an era and the start of another. Exactly. It was kind of like 06. Melbourne lost to Brisbane, but the torch passed, and Melbourne won all those premierships and made all those grand finals after that. But I'm really unsure about how this game goes because something about this Melbourne team, even as recently as last week, was just so underestimated. So underestimated. There's been so much hype. And we've spoken about their spine, but they are just so fast as well, Mike. I think they're faster than Penrith. And I think I just feel like Penrith are coming into this game really on their last legs. And I know everyone's carrying injuries, but Edwards is struggling. And we can see that Cleary has a shoulder injury, which we know about. Liam Martin has been carrying something for a few weeks as well. But this is also the last time we'll ever see this incredible combination of Luai and Cleary, which has won multiple premierships across multiple grades. And it's just such a juggernaut of a I guess core group of players that you just think that they will lift for this. But Craig Bellamy coached Cameron Munster, Jerome Hughes, Pappenhausen, Harry Grant. It's a 1 point differential this game. Yeah. But I have no idea who's getting that point.
Okay. Well, the betting agrees with you. At the current state, it's Melbourne $1.90. Panthers $1.94.
Yeah.
It will be played. It's play today call. Hasn't sold out yet, which would be disappointing. It probably will.
Well, I thought the crowd at the prelim was very disappointing. There were almost as many in Melbourne as there were at Core.
Yeah. So look, whatever the crowd is, there will be majority against Melbourne. Melbourne will be the away team. Now that doesn't ever stop Craig Bellamy. It doesn't matter. But I remember last time they played in the grand final here, the crowd was against Melbourne. The last 2 times they've played here, the crowd was against Melbourne. So, yeah. So, from you, what I want is who wins? I want the score. I want a try scorer. I want a Clive Churchill.
Okay. The score will be 9-8 to Melbourne,
Yeah.
and Jerome Hughes is going to get the Clive Churchill medal.
Okay. Try scorer? Not a winger.
No, it's not going to be a winner. It's going to be Pappenhausen.
Okay. I'm going to go 20-18 to the Penrith Panthers. 4 in a row.
Yeah.
Nathan Cleary, Clive. Although Luai.
Yeah.
Luai.
Yeah.
As a try scorer, Clive on his way out would be poetic.
If you go back and listen to 10 podcasts ago,
that's why I said it.
If Penrith wins, Luai's getting the Churchill medal. I'm telling you.
You've been saying it.
Yeah.
You've been saying it.
Yeah. If Penrith win this grand final, it's because of Luai, in the same way that it had to be because of Cleary last year because Luai was injured. It's going to be Luai has to carry this team. Right? Yeah. And the story, I'll tell you what the story is going to be, Mike. The story could actually be next week that Luai won the premiership because Cleary had to go off.
Yeah, there's a reason why Brad Schneider's on the bench.
Yeah.
Just as a safe go. And look, they did the same thing last year with Cogger.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I think if Cleary goes off, I don't think that Penrith can win, in my opinion, because last year they had the benefit of if Cleary went off, you had Stephen Crichton as a goal kicker.
Yeah.
They don't have that this year, and I think every point's going to matter. You'll see that both these teams, if there is a penalty blown, they'll take to 2 every single time.
Yeah.
We saw these teams play not too long ago.
Yeah.
And it was a higher scoring game.
It was. To be honest, I'm most excited for the some of the trick shots coming out of this. So I think we saw a preview in the Roosters game. Penrith ran it on the last out of their own end. We saw a bit of that, which is quite unusual for them, and made some ground down the left-hand side and the right-hand side. I expect to see a bit more of that early on just to get the wingers for the Storm a bit edgy and come forward early. So then come forward late in the set so Cleary might have a chance at a 40-20. And Melbourne, that speed, that incredible try, the 7-tackle set restart last week that ended up being a 100-metre runaway. Everyone just watch out. There's no time to grab some oxygen in this one because it's blink and you could miss it.
Yeah, I think that, and we've seen this final series, the refs have tended to put the whistle away. There will be long stretches of play where there is no rest, 6-7 minutes.
Yeah.
That's where the attrition will come in. One thing to note, obviously, the Penrith wingers, they are smaller than the 2 Storm wingers.
Yes.
It's never seemed to phase To'o, but Taruva can have some problems. I don't know how To'o does it. He's just insane.
Tough.
Incredible.
He's very tough.
Dylan Edwards is just broken everything at the moment, but is awesome. But yeah, it's going to be how do they handle Penrith's the Storm's speed, especially Pappy through that middle, and just Grant's craftiness. Okay.
All right, Mike, I have a question for you. How many points is a grand final tip worth? Is it worth 3? Because if it's worth 3, we still have a contest.
In the tipping comp?
In our tipping comp.
I don't know how much it's worth. I think it's 1.
If not, Tony Hetro has 1.
Yeah.
And will be guest appearing on our podcast once again ahead of Paul Saturis, which is incredible. So I don't know when we'll do that. All right.
That's it. Grand final. There is another grand final. Roosters, Sharks, women's. Up the Chooks. Up Cousin Jess. Izzy Kelly playing with a broken elbow. Just incredible. That Kelleher-Aiken combo has been really good. The Sharks have been awesome this year as well. I actually sat down and watched Sunday afternoon both games, and it was fantastic football.
Were you in the crowd with Trent Robinson?
I was not. That was Alan Katzman. Yeah.
The resemblance is...
Wow.
Happy grand final week, Mike.
Yeah, happy grand final week. How good is rugby league? We will obviously be back next year to unpack everything that happens on grand final.
Next week.
Next week. Yeah. Can't leave you ending the season like that.
No.
So yeah, we'll be back next week. Thanks, Emmanuel.
See you, Mike.
See ya.